You can have all the grand ideas, but put it in front of the customer will be like, nah, that's not for me. Then you realize that, oh shit, you just wasted a whole lot of time and money. Hello there, hope you guys are doing good. So today I want us to take a look at a subject that has been on my mind, and it's almost always on my mind, and I'm sure it's definitely going to be on my mind if you sell online or even offline. So when you sell online, that's something that you probably think about all the time is what products should you sell? Is there a product that you're probably missing on that you should be stocking that your competitor probably has? You always think about this stuff. Is there something that you probably could add to your products that your competitors don't even know about that probably give you an edge? These are things you think about all the time, like what products should you stock? What products should you sell? And what quantities of products should you sell? Like, should you have a lot of stuff? Should you have a lot of stuff? And if you want to have a lot of stuff, you want to make sure that you have the right stuff. So, how do you answer these questions and how do you navigate these questions? That's what's coming up in this video. My name is Papa Samo Samuradake. I'm a self-proclaimed e-commerce expert. Yes, self-proclaimed because I've been selling stuff online for over a decade. I've been selling stuff online since we started selling stuff online in Ghana. I've sold houses, I've sold cars, I've sold gadgets, I've sold almost everything you can think about. I probably sold it online before. Also, I'm a software engineer. I've been writing software for over a decade. I've worked with so many companies in the US, in the UK, even in Ghana. I've worked with a lot of software companies, and I have a great knowledge of software and e-commerce. And it's my goal to be able to bring that to you guys through these videos and to empower you guys to do better with your e-commerce businesses. All right, so let's get into it. The ideal scenario for almost any retailer, any merchant is to stock items that sell quickly. So what you usually want is to be able to stock items that sell as quickly as you get them. So what you want is to always be stocking items that sell out before you can actually even get the next stock. So it's sort of like you kind of are always restocking, but they're always selling at the same time. That's the ideal scenario for any retailer. That's what you want, right? But the problem is, it's not always like cut and dry like that. It's actually sometimes quite difficult to predict demand or predict the market, because the market kind of is like it's like this thing that's always moving and it's always changing. So it's always the market's demands always seem to be changing. There are some things which are fairly consistent in the market, especially consumables. But for most people who are selling online, you probably are not selling consumables. In that case, you can't really sometimes predict what people want. Something can be hot today and tomorrow people don't want it anymore. So how do you navigate these waters? So one of the first questions you probably ask yourself if you are new to selling online or just thinking about starting to sell online is, what categories of products do you want to sell? Now let's basically go through the most popular categories. The most popular categories, if you don't already know, obviously are women's clothing and beauty products. Women basically run the e-commerce industry. The demand is usually 80% or so from women. Yeah, women run the world. Shocker. So women basically command a huge proportion of the sales online because women's clothing and beauty products sell like crazy. But that doesn't necessarily make them the most popular, the most profitable category. There are actually other categories which are not the most popular categories, which are kind of profitable, which brings me to the next most popular category, which is gadgets, smartphones, and laptops, mainly consumer electronics. Those things also sell quite a lot, and they usually command higher profit margins than women's clothing and beauty products. So you kind of have to weigh in your options when you're selling stuff online. Usually, the less popular the category, the more profitable it is because there's usually less competition. And the more expensive the stuff too are. So the more expensive things usually have higher profit margins because not a lot of people really stock them and sell them, and people usually gravitate towards the cheaper, faster moving stuff. So what do you sell online? So now that we've known what categories are the most popular categories, what categories do you think are the best things to sell online? Now, this question is actually not a cut and dry answer because the truth is you can sell anything online. That's the funny thing. As long as you can find an audience or a market for it, you can sell that thing online. And the best strategy to pick products to sell online is to pick a category of products that you are very familiar with, that you have deep expertise or deep knowledge on. So if you know a lot about clothing, it's probably better for you to sell clothing. if you know a lot about gadgets, it's probably best for you to sell gadgets because it will make you a better salesperson when you're selling those things. Because you can't really sell something you don't know about. How are you going to explain it to the customer? How are you going to market to the customers? Because you can't be an informed voice. People like to buy from um, informed voices. So they like to buy from people who actually they know that this person knows what they're talking about, they know about what they're selling, because they want to trust your opinion and your judgment when they're buying from you. So if you are a sneakerhead and you are people know you for always picking the right kind of shoes, some people will come to you and not even tell you what they want. They'll just be like, "Oh, just pick something for me. I'm going somewhere. Give me a nice pair of shoes," because they respect your views and your authority, and they believe that you can probably style them better than they can style themselves, or you can probably make a better choice than themselves. And you want to be that person when you're selling stuff, because you want to be able to command the respect of your customers, because that's where you can actually command better prices. So to be a good salesperson, you just have to make sure that you sell things which you're familiar with. Because if you're selling anything, you are a salesperson automatically anyway. Now we move on to the next question, which is, do you focus on the breadth or do you focus on depth? Now, what does that mean? Do you focus on having a wide selection of stuff, which is breadth, or do you focus on having a few selection of stuff, but a lot of that stuff, which is depth? So you sell a lot more stuff, but a fewer selection, or you sell a lot more fewer stuff, but a wider selection. Now, this question is not simple to answer for everybody, because your situation might vary. Now, if you are just starting out, you probably don't even have the option of breadth, because it might be quite risky to be starting out and just go and buy a whole lot of products and come and put them down to now sell, because what if nobody buys them? So in that case, it's better if you start with depth, and even small depth and small breadth at the same time. If you're starting out, you shouldn't go and buy anything on a whim and go and buy a lot of things. You should usually start with a few things that you think will sell. So if you want to buy shoes, just start with like two or three hot pairs of shoes that you think people will like, and then start selling those. Let people get to know that you are in the market, you are in business, and then that's how you actually test the waters. You actually sell a few of that stuff, listen to customer feedback, let them listen to what they tell you. So if somebody says, or if you're, let's say you go and stock let's say you're selling men's shoes and you're going to stock white shoes. I'm sure if you stock white shoes, like it happened recently, one of my clients actually, she wanted to sell clothes, and then she, unfortunately, because she has a lot of money, traveled abroad, went to Turkey, went to buy a whole lot of clothing for men, a whole lot of shoes, especially. Unfortunately, most of the shoes she bought, she was buying from a woman's perspective. So she bought a lot of like white shoes, colorful shoes. But most men, especially older men, don't want colorful shoes. Most men want brown shoes, black shoes. And she had a hard time selling those shoes and those stuff, because she didn't actually bring a few things to the market, sell them, and get feedback. That's what you usually want to do. So usually, even if you have been in the business for a while and you're introducing some new products, it's always better to go with small quantities, very few products, like just one or two. Sell them. Let's listen to what the customers tell you. Show it to the customers and listen to what they say. When the customers, you always be humbled by customers. As long as you're in business, you should always listen to customers, because customers will humble you. You can have all the grand ideas, but when you put it in front of the customer will be like, "Nah, that's not for me." Then you realize that, oh shit, you just wasted a whole lot of time and money. It happens all the time in business, but customers are always right, always. So it depends on where you are, what stage you are in your business, to choose breadth over depth. Now, also, another reason for you to choose depth almost all the time is, especially if you are a producer of your whatever you're selling. So if you're a producer, let's say you produce clothing, you produce shoes yourself, you probably don't have the option of breadth, because how many varieties of shoes do you probably produce? You probably have a specific collection, maybe five or something, or maybe even less, that you produce. So you probably sell more. You probably produce that same thing, a lot more of that same thing, and sell a lot more of that same thing. So in that case, your option is not even breadth. But for majority of sellers, so if you are just a retailer and you've been in the business for a while, it's almost always to go for breadth, because online, especially if you have an online shop, if you have an online shop, an online storefront, a website that people can go to browse your products, it's almost always better to have breadth, because people like choice. if you sell sneakers, people want to go to a website whereby they can see a lot of different selections, different options, because tastes vary. What I like is not what Kofi likes, it's not what Abner likes, it's not what Pablo likes, it's not what Johnny likes, it's not what James likes, it's not what everybody likes. Like what I like is probably different. Everybody has different tastes, and everybody has different sizes. Especially if you're selling clothing and stuff, you will know that people will have different tastes. People might somebody might like the same sneaker, but they want it in black. Somebody wants it in white. You get what I'm saying? So you will probably be best suited to breadth. But even if you are going to go for breadth, you should always go for breadth with feedback. So listen to your customers and acquire your stock and source your products by what your customers want. That's the best way to go about it. But breadth is a very great strategy for online businesses, especially when you have an online shop. If you don't have an online shop, we'll talk about that in another video. You definitely must have an online shop if you're selling online. It's not enough to sell on social media without an online shop. Now that brings me to a shameless plug. I actually own a company called Nuanum, whereby we provide software solutions. We have an app. We have an app that makes you, sorry, we have an app that makes your business so crazy efficient. Our app is kind of like Shopify, but for Ghana, whereby you can easily just upload your products and it will give you an online shop. And it's very easy to take orders online and even offline. And you can use our app as a POS. If you're interested, you can find the link below. You can click on the link to take you to our website and you can find out more information about Nuanum, the Nuanum app, which is probably going to change your life if you don't have an online shop. Now, also, let's go to the next point on our list here, which is mitigating risk. So, you've decided that you've now got items, that's the things you want to source. How do you mitigate risk and make sure that you don't stock things which probably don't sell out, or probably the market doesn't shift under you whilst you are enjoying? So, like I said previously, you should always make sure that you stock slowly. So just stock very few things and listen to your customers before you increase your stock quantities. But another way to mitigate risk is to do just-in-time sourcing. Just in time, you can call some people call it JIT sourcing. So JIT sourcing means that you should always stock things in small quantities. Now, this is not actually always possible, because there are some things whereby you always have an advantage when you order in bulk. But if you're ordering in small quantities, you usually won't have an advantage, because when you order in bulk, you get discounts that make your prices lower, which means you have higher margins. And also, when you order in bulk, it also gives you more strength to do something like ad campaigns, because when you're doing like a marketing or advertising campaign, you have enough stock so that you can sell as much as your ads are, the traffic your ads are bringing in. But in almost all cases where you are not doing anything like that, you should focus on always stocking as little as possible. A general rule of thumb is to stock about a week worth of things you are going to sell. So if you know this week you're probably only going to sell maybe um, 2 or 3 shoes of a particular type, you shouldn't have more than 2 or 3 of that particular shoe in stock. Now, this is not always possible. That's the truth. This is not always possible, and that's the truth, because in business things are always changing all the time. But as a general rule of thumb, you should avoid sourcing things in bulk quantities, because it's just way more risky for you to have a lot of stuff in storage that you don't plan to sell soon. It's just too much risky. What if the shoe changes under you? Let's say there's a new shoe that has been released, and everybody in the market now wants that new shoe, and then you have this crazy stock of old of old shoes that nobody wants anymore. It means you've basically made a loss. So, and it happens all the time. This has happened to me so many times I can't even tell you. Like, this is a mistake a lot of merchants and retailers do. We make this mistake all the time, because sometimes we get carried away. Sometimes you have a product and it's moving like crazy, and then you're just carried away and you're like, oh, yo, let me just keep restocking. Let me just keep restocking. Oh, yeah, people are buying, so let me keep stocking. And then all of a sudden, something changes and people are not buying anymore. It happens. Trust me. If you've not been in business for a while, you don't know this. But if you have been in business, I'm sure you felt this pain before. Now, another thing is experimentation. Very important. In fact, this is the final point I'm going to make in this video, but it's actually very important. And this is the risky part of um, sourcing products. You always want to make sure that you have some products which probably nobody knows about, that you are probably trying, testing, because this is where sometimes you make those lucky breaks. because there are some scenarios whereby you find a specific product you don't even, but you have a hunch, especially if you've been selling a bunch of a category of products for a while. Sometimes you can stumble upon a product and you have a hunch that this product will probably do, or it will probably resonate with the customers like this. You sometimes you just have that hunch. When you have that hunch in business, you shouldn't hesitate too much. Sometimes you just need to take the risk and then take the plunge. Yes, I know it's risky sometimes, but that's what business is about. Sometimes I use the philosophy of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon. He has a philosophy about taking risk, which is um, two-door risks. A two-door risk is basically a risk whereby there's a way to get in and a way to get out of the risk. So that risk basically won't kill you. We have one-door risks, which are risks whereby if you take that risk, it could probably kill your business. So when I think about experimenting with products, I think of it as taking risks with that kind of two door risk. A two-door risk is basically getting a product that you think might sell, but if it doesn't sell, I mean, you make a loss, but you're not gonna die. You're just gonna learn from it. But the reason why you have to make sure that you keep on experimenting with these kind of products is you can discover a gold rush easily that way. Like that's one of the beautiful things about selling online and about taking those kind of risks, that when you stumble upon a product that just resonates with your customers and it's hot cake, you can be one of the first people to bring that product to the market, and you can sell a lot of it. I'll give you an example of this. So there's this tripod that we sell at Burger Goods. Yes, another shameless plug. So I own an online store called Burger Goods that we sell unpopular gadgets that people don't even know. Like you probably don't even know you need these gadgets. So if you like, go to burgergoods.com and take a look at the products there. Some of them are things you are familiar with, like we sell tripods. But you realize that our tripod is unique because I do content and I've been creating content for a while. And I found this tripod on the Chinese market, which is actually like it can become it's a portable tripod, you can extend it, and it's very tall, it gets up to 5.7 feet. And I believe, and it's very stable, and it can be used for cameras and phones as well. So I loved this tripod when I got this tripod for myself, and I loved it. Actually, it was my supplier of my former tripods. I used to sell some tripods which were kind of like cheaper tripods, and I was like, these tripods are okay, but don't you have something better? And they were like, oh, they do have something better actually, which is new. And then they introduced me to the tripod, and I brought that tripod in, and that tripod has been doing very well. Actually, it's the same tripod I'm using to shoot this video right now, and that tripod has been doing very well for Burger Goods. And we've been selling that tripod for a couple of years now. Do you get what I'm saying? So some of these things you just have to experiment. Sometimes you have to even ask your suppliers. If you get suppliers from China, if you want to know how to get supplies from China, you better subscribe, because I'm going to be sharing a lot of that information, how to get supplies from China without going to China. Yeah, I'm going to show you all of that on this channel. So subscribe if you want more of that. Yeah, so that is how you kind of find gold rushes in e-commerce, is by experimenting with products. You should be careful when you're experimenting with products to make sure that you don't over invest. Always make sure that you're not over investing. Invest just a little bit of money into risky products and test the markets, test your customers, ask your customers if they love it. If they do, you can bring more, but make sure you don't overstock too. So that's about it. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you guys found this video very informative. I'm going to leave all the links to my online store, to my software company below. You should check it out if you're interested, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.